freight transportation on lead distances beyond 300 kilometers has dwindled to 32% in fiscal 2019, compared with 52% in fiscal 2008. And in developed economies, this is close as high as about 65 to 70%. So, taking cognizance of these challenges, IR has embarked upon a transformational path. This is a longer journey, and we are in the fifth year of that journey. And it has rolled out numerous initiatives cutting across various aspects, ranging from institutional structure, operational restructuring, increased investments, all of it put together. Uh, Key focus is to increase the passenger and the freight part of the contribution. And we have distinguished panelists. I wouldn't take more time afterwards. I would to kind of come in and talk about the key initiatives that DFCC has kind of taken up to further. Over to you, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Padmanabhan. Thank you for inviting and giving me an opportunity for joining this webinar. Actually, as we all know, the railway transportation is very significant in any country's economy. It is both energy efficient and also environment friendly. The developed countries have a high share of the rail transportation. We can see the figures in the China or US, where the road, as vis-a-vis road transport, rail transport is having a very high percentage share. In India, what is happening that the major transportation is on the GQGD, that is the rail or road route connecting the metro cities. And for example, in India, the Delhi, Chennai, and the Howrah, this quadrilateral, this is only 15% or 16% of the rail network, but it carries around 52% of the passenger transport and 58% of the rail freight transport. So it shows how much congestion is there. Whenever railway tries any doubling or any improvement anywhere, it is only an incremental improvement. There is not much significant improvement. That's why Government of India then decided in 2006 that railway transport model share has to increase for the country's economy, and also by making minor changes in the railway, it is not possible. To improve the significant share of the railway, we have to make a quantum jump, and that requires dedicated freight corridor. And then and there, the concept of the dedicated freight corridor came. In dedicated freight corridor, we have already planned for the double line, electrified, fit for 100 kmph with higher axle load from Delhi to JNPT, that is near Mumbai, and Delhi to Howrah. And right now we are going up to Sonnagar only. This is around 2,850 kilometer or so, and later it will be around 3,375 when we will be reaching up to Dankuni. Anyway, what is the main advantage of the DFCC? Though we all are very aware, I will just briefly cover those main aspects. That the trains in the DFCC will be longer haul as compared to the Indian Railway train, which is generally 700-meter length. There in DFCCL, it will be 1.5 kilometer. We have capacity in Western Dedicated Freight Corridor to run the double stack containers. We also have a capacity of heavy haul. That is, in Indian Railway, the train can carry up to 5,300 metric ton. In dedicated freight corridor, up to 13,000 metric ton of the load in a single train can be transported. And then we have advantage of the speed. The Indian Railway trains, freight trains are generally moving up to a speed of 75 kmph. In DFCCL, all trains will move up to a speed of 100 kmph. So all these will give a biggest advantage that in dedicated freight corridor, there will be scheduled operation of the trains with the faster speed. So there will be reliability of the freight services. Anybody can predict that the train which is starting from the JNPT, say 10 in the morning, at what time will it reach to Dadri, Delhi? It will be around say 20 hour, 10 hour, 20 hours or 18 hours or so. The average speed which is in Indian Railway generally 25 kmph or so. In DFCC, we expect that it will be 70 kmph plus. So it will be threefold improvement in the average speed. So there will be much better reliability and the scheduled operation of the trains. And then also we can see that what is the best point with the DFC is that the reduced logistic cost which has been conceived as a part of the DFCC. How can we reduce the logistic cost? Number one, our assets are the best available state of the art assets. Here the track, which is generally in Indian Railway is 22.9 ton axle load. Here we have provided the substructures up to 30.5 ton axle load. The bridges and earthwork are fit for 32.5 ton axle load, though the track, that is the rail and sleeper, are 25 ton axle load. So higher the axle load. And number two, we have provided the higher dimensions for the wagons permissible in the DFCCL. So the wagons will be having a better chances for the more carrying capacity. Similarly, we have improved the quality of the signals, automatic signaling, better communication, and we expect that there will be at least we can run up to 120 trains per day per direction. So in Delhi to Mumbai, 120 trains on upline, 120 trains on the downline under the normal circumstances, which can further be later improved up to 140 trains per day per direction. So you can consider that how much is the capacity dedicated freight corridor is going to provide to the country with the reduced logistic cost. And the reduction in the logistic costs are also due to indirectly that our assets will be utilized much better. I was day before discussing with the dairy plant owners. They are having 3 rakes for the transportation of the milk from Gujarat to NCR area. They say we are having 3 to 4 rakes, and after DFC the requirement will reduce to 2 rakes only, because with the better turnaround the requirement will come down, or their handling costs and other costs will also come down. So the country is looking forward for the timely commissioning of the DFCCL because of the reduced logistic costs and the reduced transition time. And what type of the facility which we are going to provide in the dedicated freight corridor, that is not only just the faster and the reliable services, we also provide to reduce the cost of the logistic, which will be passed on to the customer to some extent, and also the value added service at the DFC terminals. We are in a process of tying up with the various private operators to provide the better facilities at various terminals. We are intending to provide the IT packaging in all the services. We are tying up with other operators for door-to-door service in the logistic arrangements. We also have a capacity to provide the good facility for the parcel transportation. This is also a field where there is a lots of the scope, including for the white goods, for the e-commerce and the agriculture produce, perishables, etc. So this is also a field where DFC has got lot of scope. Further, the important scope with the DFC and the opportunity in the Indian economy is the development of multimodal logistic parks all along with the DFC alignment. Already NICDC and the CRWC, they have entered into the MOU with the DFCCIL. Two MOUs have already been signed with the NICDC for the MMLPs on the alignment, and the others are also in the pipeline. These will give a big boost for the industrial development all along that particular area. Similarly, we are looking forward for the roll-on, roll-off type of the transportation, improved automobile transportation and other similar facilities. And also, especially in the Western Dedicated Freight Corridor, we are expecting that the export-import traffic will improve through the coming up of the DFCCIL. As of now, the port coefficient for the railway is just 20-25% or so. We are expecting that it will improve, And this improvement will add to the railways model share, which is just 30% as of now. And after the DFC stabilizes, it will go up to 45% or more. So these are the briefs about the DFCCL. As we all know, this is about 1 lakh crore infra project, first time ever taken by the Ministry of the Railway.
Yeah.
And we are already through the progress of around 70%. We have invested around 70,000 crores already. We are expecting that the March 21, we will be completing around 40% of our track, that is 1100 track route kilometers. And by June 22, we will be completing the entire 2,843 kilometers of the DFCCL from Delhi to JNPT and from Dadri to Sonnagar. So the country is looking forward for the completion of DFCC, and there will be lots of the improvement in the Indian economy and
Sure,
logistics
sir.
sectors.
Sure.
Thank
Thank you.
you.
Thank you. So I think very pertinent points that you have talked about, and it is one of the largest investment which is being taken up by railways on a particular set of projects concentrated. And if I'm not mistaken, I think there is even a short program by Discovery, in collaboration with World Bank, talking about the freight corridor and how that is going to kind of transform India. So kudos to that. We'll come back to you, sir, in a minute. I just want to know, and you talked about the multimodal logistics park and also talked about how that is a very important aspect that we should be looking at. So I thought it will be a good time to kind of bring in Mr. Shantanu into the discussion and kind of throw lights on how the whole multimodal transport and logistics part of it, because it is not a question of roads or railways. It is roads and railways both put together which has to coexist. That means then the whole multimodal logistics is way in which we should be looking at things. Over to you, Mr. Shantanu, for your opening remarks.
Yeah, namaskar. And thanks for this opportunity because multimodalism is what we are passionate about. Largely, we are focused into international multimodalism, but domestic is a big opportunity. I will first start with a suggestion about change of structure of transport as it happens, as the ecosystem grows or as the capacity grows. Let us take a small example of container shipping. Now, if you take container shipping in the neighborhood, which is India to India and from India to Middle East and Southeast Asia and to some extent Far East only up to Shanghai, I would say. If you take this entire belt from Middle East to Shanghai and Sri Lanka included, it is largely controlled by a new structure that has come in, which is you have feeder operators. Feeder operators just operate ships. Then you have container or box operators who are called POCCs. They own containers and they do container inventory management. Now the customers of box operators are freight forwarders, multimodal transport operators, and custom brokers, who in turn go and canvass for cargo. As a result, you can see the traditional shipping lines now also have stopped doing entire operation over here and they have fitted themselves into this. As a result, the capacity of a feeder vessel used to be maximum 800. Now you have feeder vessels of 2500 capacity. So we are talking about DFCC, double stack train, which is going to bring a huge capacity. We will require a change of approach to the structure of transport. When we come to multimodal transport and the Prime Minister and Commerce Minister and everyone is talking about multimodal connectivity and multimodal hub. What is important is multimodal means more than two means, but then it has to be seamless multimodal. It can't be just a legal multimodal, it has to be infrastructural multimodal. Infrastructural multimodal is within that terminal or logistics park or hub or even the port, which becomes in one case a logistics park. You should have connectivity of all the modes, which is coastal, rail, road, inland waterways, coastal. So all the modes should merge, means all means at least two, but they should merge seamlessly. An example of that is if you want to change from say road to rail, it should be possible seamlessly without significant handling cost. If you need to have a creative solution for it, a point in case is a Basel trimodal infrastructure. Now, Basel trimodal infrastructure has ensured that the single gantry crane operates across the barge. The Basel is a hinterland, it's Switzerland. It is a costly economy, expensive within Europe. And within Switzerland, Basel is an expensive part. Yet, it is a pharmaceutical capital of the world. Now, Basel is a riverine port, and there you get feeder barges coming from Antwerp, largely Rotterdam sometimes. But that terminal operates more than 4 million containers in a very small land, and the same gantry crane operates across the barge, the rail, road, the local storage over there for different terminal, and it also operates as a secondary hub. Now, why I'm bringing out this example is we did lot of work on domestic multimodal and with rail being the key operations. Currently, we are carrying cargo to Bangladesh, but it is single customer, single consignee, single moving from central India. But if we want to try move pulses, now Akola does lot of pulses from Akola to Murshidabad. The distance is quite big. It's about 1200 kilometers. And yet we see that if we want to carry cargo from factory to the railway yard, the stuffing cost in the wagon, the destuffing cost in the ultimate destination, and the loading in truck and final delivery, the door-to-door cost, if we use a multimodal, which is a segmented multimodal, not seamless multimodal, is higher than truck from Akola, which is near Nagpur in central India, to Murshidabad. Now, if that solution we can't give, then really we have not arrived. We should be able to anything above 500 kilometers should be cheaper by rail is a yardstick in Europe. The trucking costs in India are much more competitive. So we should be able to do much better in India in that aspect. Further, I would say if we want to have multimodal, we should create a confidence in the customers that it will be scheduled kind of movement. When we have scheduled movement, for example, for pharmaceuticals, lot of truck cargo can move over here. The last point I want to make and rest my case for this is when we say multimodal logistics hub, we actually have to create an ecosystem for hub where railways and road we have to support each other to bring cargo from one place to a central hub and distribute from there and not really focus only on operating entire rake or one CFS to one port or one railway station operator. With this some initial remarks, I will be open for questions and further engagement to develop this topic.
Yeah.
Thanks for this opportunity and namaskar.
Thanks, Mr. Shantanu. I think very valid points that you've talked about. That rail should be the most preferred transport when longer distances, which is not entirely the case currently. So, having said that, I want to get Mr. Malik into this discussion now. In two aspects part of it, sir. I think one, if you look at the freight part of it, in the even in the COVID hit time, freight is what has come to the rescue for Indian Railways, right? And they have actually clocked more volume, or they're expecting to clock more volume on a full year consolidated basis in comparison to the previous year. And the average lead time has decreased, speed of the trains has also increased significantly. In fact, it has doubled up to come to close to 45 kilometers. The reason I'm saying is that the context of this whole freight corridor is becomes a very important aspect. And for a person who has worked in the execution aspects in the nuts and bolts, while we heard from the DFCC chairman and the MD on the prospects part of it, you have personally worked in the execution part of it. So I wanted to understand from your experience of working with the DFC and what we can expect going forward. Yeah.
Thanks, Vicky, for this opportunity and respected chief guest, the dignitaries on the dais, MD DFCC, and esteemed delegates. Very good morning. Having been involved with the execution of two sections of EDFC allotted to GMR, I personally have experience with DFCC project, which I will share with this forum so that more vibrant project implementation strategies can be involved. In EPC contract of such high value, cash flow management is very crucial. Generally, milestone payments are so designed that contractors' cash flow is not unnecessarily affected. Based on the past experience, maximum negative cash flow of about 25% was accounted for, including the mobilization advance. However, during the course of execution, often inconsistency in milestone payments were faced. For example, the activity which has already been taken place could not be paid as part of the another activity which is included in later milestone is completed. This perhaps had happened because for railway type of work, the EPC has never been adopted in the past. This resulted in negative cash flow of more than 30% of the contract value, resulting in acute shortage of funds. Due to credit squeeze, banks were not willing to extend support. Financing costs went up adversely, affecting profitability of the project. The silver lining has been the positive support from DFCC to ease on mobilization advance recovery, deferment, and increasing stage of payment. However, subsequently, due to COVID situations, the DFCC management proactively released the locked up payment for quantities executed, inspected, and accepted, but not payable on account payment milestones. This single decision of DFCC management has brought in the turnaround of the progress of the work at the site. In future, the payment milestone for this type of work should be designed thoughtfully to ensure that well-performing contractors are not made to suffer unnecessarily. It may be clearly understood that technological developments are continuous process, but in case of EPC contracts, employers' requirements should has to be frozen. However, Indian Railway is not party to DFCC agreement, and therefore the DFCC is obliged to follow the approved revised technical specifications from time to time. There are several small issues which keep on coming, causing disputes. Indian Railway being operator, it will not be appropriate to restrain the technical decision taken by them. However, DFCC should take approval of IR for technical specifications being included in the employer requirements before floating the tender. And if there is any change later on, contractor should be fairly compensated. It is also suggested that duly empowered technical advisory group consisting of eminent experts be formed to look into all unforeseen technical problems arising during lifetime of the project. We suggest that a proper mechanism should be incorporated in the contract for handling such unforeseen technical matters without involving the commercial dispute resolution machinery like DAB and arbitrations, etc. Finally, I appreciate the commitment, involvement, and review mechanism exhibited by DFCC besides extending possible helping hand in the interest of the project. Thank you very much.
Yeah, Mr. Malik, I think any new projects of this nature has always some teething issues, but that you could point out some of the aspects that could be acting as a key learning part of it. I would now want to get into the conversation, and specifically in terms of I touched upon the whole how the freight basket has been significantly contributing to the overall profitability of the Indian Railways. If you see, traditionally, this has concentrated only by eclipse with the traditional bulk and break bulk commodities. And railways has really not focused its energy, or I would not say not focused, but still more can be done in on the to capture the non-traditional cargo, agri commodities, so on and so forth. So, what is your view on the recent, Kisan Rail initiative by the Indian Railways, and what are the other steps that they can take up so that agri commodity can be one of key commodities which to cater to the growth for Indian Railways on the. Over to you, Mr. Sachin.
Morning, everyone. I'm Sachin Bhanushali, Director and CEO of Gateway Rail Freight Limited and the Chairman of the National Committee of CII on Indian Railways, as well as a member of the Logistics Committee of FICCI. Thank you, FICCI management, for organizing this. It's a very interesting area, and thanks, Jagan, for being our moderator today. The list of points which could be the basis for discussion today circulated by you were helpful. And I will largely stick to the points which we agreed upon. So there are basically 5 areas which I would like to highlight. The first one is evolution of Indian Railways role over a period of time as a transport service provider. And I am distinguishing here as a transport service provider and an infrastructure service provider. Second one is road infra versus rail infra. How railway infrastructure in India, this is where the Indian Railways role as infrastructure provider comes into play, has resulted into somewhat a stepmotherly treatment to Indian Railways until the merger of budget of Indian Railways with the Union Budget of India took place. Third is we have to look at rail transport service as a product and what are the qualities of that product which need to be taken into account if we really want to increase the modal share of railways. And we will have to bring in concept which was touched upon by Mr. Badkamkar of intermodalism. I would not call it multimodalism because multimodalism is essentially is in international transport where single document results into transportation over multiple modes. Intermodalism, wherein the land transportation can be done by rail and road or waterways or any combination of 2 or more. The fourth aspect that I would like to highlight is the modal share. The acid test of any transport service being provided in a country, whether it is railways, roadways, waterways, would primarily be tested on the basis of modal share as measured in NTKM, net ton kilometer, weight multiplied by the distance, which will decide what kind of share does that particular product has. And the last one is private trains on dedicated freight corridor, or what are the vistas of rail transportation to be opened by a dedicated freight corridor. I will first briefly dwell upon the evolution of Indian Railways role as a transporter. Indian Railways originally started as the only main pan-India transport service provider, and it used to provide service not only of train load of cargo parcel, but also wagon load, which was known as piecemeal, and less than wagon load, which was known as smalls. All these wagons carrying either less than wagon load or wagon load cargo used to go from point of origin to marshalling yards, where multiple marshalling yards used to ensure that marshalling trains, which bring in cargo on a hub and spoke principle, used to take it to destination. In view of capacity constraint and in order to feed primarily 3 sectors, food grain, fertilizer, and coal for powerhouses, Indian Railways switched over to the model of train load transportation largely from its earlier model, wherein all the 3 kinds of less than wagon load, and train load parcel sizes were being accepted. This happened somewhere around the 80s. It solved a bigger problem of India of transportation of fertilizer for the purpose of primary sector, produce of the primary sector to be taken for the purpose of PDS distribution at various locations through FCI godowns, as well as programmed transportation of food grain by Indian Railways. And thirdly, to ensure that energy sufficiency in India is ensured by way of transportation of coal in adequate quantities from pit head to the power heads. However, it resulted into a big deficit coming in, particularly in two aspects. One was less than container load, which is now called parcel and less than wagon load or less than container load, which is now known as parcel and express. And the second segment was wagon load or a container load, which primarily is the truckload, FTL business today. Simultaneously, the road transportation deficit, which was there, road transport infrastructure deficit, which existed in India, was kind of picked up by the government of India as well as the state governments, and state highways and national highways network reached a certain level of maturity, resulting into road transport capability of India getting strengthened over a period of time. In the meanwhile, the consumption story of India, the manufactured product production story of India also was evolving simultaneously. And road transport being a low entry barrier commercial activity, not requiring much of skill set, much of capital, as well as much of statutory compliance, resulted into huge ramp up. It has not only resulted into ramp up of road transportation, but has also resulted into non-compliance of many environmental and non-environmental regulatory matters, has also resulted into some amount of lack of scruples as far as that segment is concerned. But we are not going to talk about that. The road infrastructure was largely funded by the state, whereas the rail infrastructure was expected to be largely funded only out of the commercial earnings of Indian Railways. This resulted into the operating ratio of Indian Railways coming under pressure on account of cost of developing infrastructure. Now, if road transport is supposed to transport in truckloads, less than truckload or full truckload, on roads which are constructed by the state by payment only of a certain fee called road tax, there is no reason why rail transportation should take care of construction of its railroad itself. So there was an anomaly there. Then we come to the rail transport as a product. Rail transport is a complex product and has to be compared with the alternatives which are available in the market. So first we have to look at the parcel size. The commercial parcel size has shrunk over a period of time on account of manufactured products increasing and the consumption story of India unfolding. The operational product, in order to make it rail friendly, has to be larger. So that is where you need to bring in container, where commercial booking of a single full truckload or a full container load can take place. Whereas operationally, you can run a train which can carry up to 90 or 180 containers, depending on whether you're on double stack or not. Second is terminals for handling this cargo. It is Indian Railways infrastructure responsibility to ensure that adequate terminals, common user terminals, are available on its network if it wants to foster this sector in order to attract manufactured goods, whether those are consumer manufactured goods or industrial manufactured goods, to be carried by Indian Railways on containers or any switchable mode like swap bodies. That's where the unreasonable expectation that private sector will come in and set up all the terminals across India in order to bring cargo from road to rail is unreasonable. There is a possibility of the private sector continuing with road transportation as it is. The third thing which comes in is quality of service. Indian Railways quality of service either does not speak of itself, or sometimes they speak of speed. The customer is not interested in speed. The customer is interested in transit time. That means the time when the cargo is handed over until the time when the cargo is delivered. Indian Railway, let's say, I would say, continues to focus on what is the average speed of cargo. It doesn't impress. The customer says that even if your speed is low, we don't mind, but you give a commitment and you carry it during that commitment. Instead of 5 days, say 6 days, but carry it in 6 days. 90% of the cargo should reach in 6 days. So that is where quality of service definition needs to come in. The last one is the flexible commercials. Price is determined by demand and supply in the market and alternatives which are available. It is not based on cost of producing the service, whereas the basis of pricing of Indian Railways continues to be distance and weight based transportation charges, freight charges, which essentially means it is based on cost. And that is where Indian Railways need to bring in flexibility in changing its approach to pricing. It has to be higher price in the direction in which demand is more than supply, and lower price in the direction in which supply is more than demand. And you will never find origin destination where the demand and supply in both the direction is same, unless you are operating between a port and a dry port. Next, we come to the fourth point of modal share. The acid test, whether that particular mode of transport is acceptable to the commercial world or not, is dependent on modal share. Over a period of time, Indian Railways has come down from 75-80% of modal share to 35% of modal share. And this is also on the basis of net ton kilometers. That means the real transport product. We have already discussed the various reasons for this. But in order to correct it, Indian Railway cannot say that it is road versus rail. It has to be road versus road, rail, road model. That is where rail transportation becomes complete transportation. We must keep in mind either ocean transport or rail transport are incomplete transportation products, and it requires road transportation for the purpose of first mile as well as last mile. Then I come to my last point of private trains on dedicated freight corridor. Indian Railway lacks, or rather Indian environment of rail transportation primarily lacks two things at present. One is that there is no independent regulator, and secondly, we lack multiple operator environment. I think dedicated freight corridor is the right occasion when we can enter into multi-operator format. And simultaneously, if we bring in a regulator, which will separate infrastructure role of Indian Railways, the Railway Ministry, and the policy making role of Indian Railways as Railway Ministry, vis-a-vis service provider role of zonal railways, wherein origin to destination rail transportation product, whether in railways wagons or in containers or on private trains, is provided by Indian Railways. Currently, the thinking is that where the origin and destination both lie on dedicated freight corridor, there will be some amount of commercial flexibility which will be available to dedicated freight corridor. If the origin or destination does not lie on dedicated freight corridor, then the commercials will be regulated by the commercial rules of Indian Railways. There is a need for Indian Railways to come out of issuing notifications and running business on the basis of notification. They are no more a government organization in the sphere of transportation. They will have to change their role as a commercial service provider. And they will have to foster multi-operator environment, not only on DFC, but on Indian Railways, in order to bring in the four aspects which I mentioned as far as rail transportation is concerned, to ensure that modal share of Indian Railways measured in NTKM grows over a period of time, and we are able to hit the number that Indian Railways is talking about, of going from current level of 20%, 35% to 50%. If we are currently originating loading of 1250 million tons, in order to go to 2500 million tons over a period of next 5 or 10 years, it would be necessary for Indian Railways to look at small parcel size, intermodal operation, manufactured goods, whether industrial or consumer goods. Thank you so much. I rest my case with you.
Mr. Sachin, I think a very, very lucid explanation, and also gives a wholesome view about freight transportation, and what are the important aspects that we should be looking at. And I would want to kind of get the MD DFCCIL now into the conversation. Couple of points that you talked about, I'll just rephrase it or put it onto the table to him, because he may be able to address this. Mr. Jain, I think one point that Mr. Sachin talked about was the multi-operator format part of it. And I know for a fact that DFCCIL is looking at opening up its network for others to also utilize. At least there's been enough talk about it. One. Second is in terms of pricing. Again, fair amount of flexibility is going to be brought on table by DFCC on pricing. It is not going to be pegged in terms of the Indian Railways part of it. Indian Railways, you all know, freight has been cross-subsidizing passenger, and hence the real cost of what the I think, Mr. Sachin, we also do not know what is the actual real cost of transportation in the Indian railway segment, because there's a lot of cross-subsidization which is there.
If Mr. Jagan, if you can give me one moment to comment on it. If you look at the Indian Railways yearbook, which at present is available for the year 2018-19, the gross receipts of Indian Railways on freight, passenger and other passenger earnings put together is roughly 1,75,000 crore rupees.
I know.
Indian Railways manpower cost, including payment of is 1,25,000 crore rupees. If we look at this, I don't think we need to go anywhere else.
I get your point. I think to be focused on to say that the freight is cross-subsidizing the passenger part of it, and DFCCL is going to be a bit different. So I think we'll just focus on that part of the pricing, which is there. And the third, sir. what are the new? I'm just conscious of time, so just to say that what are the new DFCs which are being planned? So probably you can talk about it. So those are the three things which I said: multiple operators, pricing, and the new DFCs which are there. Over to you, sir.
Thank you again, Jagan. And also thanks to Sachin. He has brought out very important points about the rail transportation and also related to the DFCCIL. Yes, in the DFCCIL, when the transportation will be with the origin and destination within the DFCCIL, we will try in the time to come to provide the multi-operators, and very soon we will come out with the details. But as of now, it is not available because Indian Railway is the only our customer and he is also our mentor. So right now we are bound with the concession agreement of the Indian Railway. But yes, in the time to come, there will be many more independent operators working in the DFCCIL. Number two, so far as pricing is concerned, again, within the origin and destination of DFCCIL, pricing relaxation has been given to the DFCCIL to a certain extent. But it is again true when O&D is not within the DFCCIL, Indian Railway rules, concession notifications will be applicable. So again, we will have to look into in the time to come for that aspect. But what is more important, which Mr. Sachin pointed out, that the customer are interested in two, three things. First is the reliability of the service. At what time would you take my consignment to the destination? In DFCCIL, we are sure that with the higher speed and the reliability of the service, we will be able to ensure the reliability, safe transportation, and the timely transportation. And number two, with the faster speed, the turnaround of the vehicles will be much faster. So the customer will take the advantage. If they are having their own vehicles, their turnarounds will improve to a considerable extent. So that is going to give a benefit to the logistic service providers. Thank you.
Yeah, so thanks for that. I just wanted to take 1 minute, and we'll soon be opening up the floor for question answers. So feel free to punch in your questions and start asking about it, so that we can take them up, because then it will be a lot more lively in that perspective. Just moving to Mr. Shantanu. It is understood that most operations of private logistics company, especially in the express delivery, are aligned to with road transport. Railways currently does not have a major play in the transport of time-sensitive cargo. So, what are the key difficulties that the logistics players face in the rail transport currently from the time reliability? And Sachin also talked about it. And what steps should IR take to attract such cargo?
Well, to begin with, we need to have scheduled services, fixed time arrival, fixed time departure. Now, what we call as courier or express service, the routes are in railways. So railways were the ones to, I would say, invent the term express. Express means it is express time of departure and express time of arrival. Once we start that, then everybody will start building their service models around it. So it is not just private players operating rakes on DFCC. We need to have defined services. And I see a great potential for end-to-end speed, and there will be a good competition from road sector, because government is also investing a lot on roads. The quality of roads is improving significantly, and nothing works for quality like competition. So I believe let's look at greater opening up to players, and as I say, create a complete ecosystem. Even express players depend on different stakeholders. If you take any express or time defined service, they have a network. Their strength comes from network. And here, in fact, we had discussion with the post department, with the kind of staff postal authorities have and railways have, the kind of network they can create to reach up to the level is amazing. No private sector can ever create. So maybe I think we should discuss all these patterns so that customer has more opportunities.
Sure.
Thanks.
Thank you. So I just quickly last 5 7 minutes in terms of the panel discussion part. Over to Mr. Malik. COVID really tested everybody. Uh, I mean, there were great learnings for the way people operated. For the infrastructure developer, there were new ways in which that they could start to work. Some of them were forced upon it. Some of them that they had to adapt. For a service provider, again, there were learnings. And so I just want to quickly understand from you what has been A, the impact of COVID for you, and B, what are the key learnings from there on from for your group? Over to you, Mr. Malik.
See, as COVID pandemic severely disrupted the normal life in an unprecedented manner, it is not easy to make an assessment of the time and cost implications on the contractual agency. The man, material, and machinery is mobilized and the work restarted. But then one news of COVID positive case somewhere else will result in complete clampdown on the work. In addition to wastage of man, material, and machinery, there are huge costs involved in taking care of site in case of sudden stoppage of work. In fact, we got a very good support from Dfcc, and some good steps has been taken by Dfcc really, and we could start the work again, and now life is almost normal. Thank you.
This regard,
Yeah,
if
sure.
you permit me, then Mr. Jagan, then I would
Yeah,
add
please.
that at the time when the pandemic was declared in the country, around 20,000 laborers, staff, officials were stuck up at the various sites all along the DFC alignment. And it was a very gigantic task to take care of them. But DFCCL, along with their working contractors, agencies, and other subsidiaries, we could take care of them. And after relaxation in the lockdown, we persuaded them to start with the work with all the protocol to follow. And it is really very interesting to put as a statistic that as compared to last year, our capital expenditure is still exceeding. It means that despite there was no work in the month of the April, May, and practically also in June, we could recover fast, and our total capex vis-a-vis last year is higher in this current financial year. So it means we have recovered from the COVID impact, and also we could pursue with the working agencies. And what Mr. Malik has already covered, that we have given certain relaxation, which were very important, reduction in the relaxation in the retention amount and cost center relaxation, etc. So in any case, we have recovered so far as DFCCL concerned from the COVID. And one more thing I would like to cover, which Mr. Shantanu was covering about the schedule operation of the train in DFCCL. Yes, we are charting out the trains right from JNPT to Delhi and vice versa. And we intend to utilize these timings or these scheduled trains through the other operators or the private operators in the time to come. So we will follow what Mr. Shantanu has advised. Thank you very much.
Yeah, sir, I just want to also ask one more question to you. With this whole COVID and then the whole focus of government looking at this whole Atmanirbharata, right? And you have correctly also pointed out that the expenditure only on DFCCL has been higher than compared to the last year, right? So there'll be a lot of people as participants in this seminar who represent the MSME, SME sector, who are looking in the Indian part of it and then the railway part of it. What is the opportunity which are available for them in with DFCCL, and if you can also throw across for the Indian Railways, that will be very helpful.
The basically the Indian Railway, this DFCCL have utilized the latest technology, state of the art technology, but all the TNP and the equipments and the machinery is mostly from the India, except those which we had to be procured as a part of the bilateral agreement. In dedicated freight corridor, first time we evolved and better quality of rails have been taken from the plants. The sleepers, higher axle load have been manufactured in our own plants. Similarly, the signaling systems have been improved and devised with the help of the RDSO and procured through the Indian manufacturers. And many more things have been taken from the Indian industries only. It has given not only the employment, but also has given an opportunity for upgrading their technological upgradation. Similarly, in the field of the telecommunication, installation of our SCADA, our train control system at Prayagraj is one of the state-of-the-art facility for handling the train operations, which is not so far there in anywhere in the Indian Railway. So all these have come with the Indian manufacturers only. So we are extending and taking all the requirement which is needed as per the Atmanirbhar Bharat, started by our Honorable Prime Minister. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. I'd like to get Sachin onto the conversation. Sachin, we talked about quite a bit on the freight part of it. The second is on the passenger. But what I want to hear from you is on the see there is about 115 odd routes on the private passenger part of it, which is going to come up for privatization, where the private trains can run. Uh, if you were to look at on the freight part of it, the whole CTO, the container train operators, the same Bonhomie was there, and close to, if I'm not mistaken, about 20 CTOs came up, thinking that they will be able to do a lot of work on the freight transportation and the privatization part of it. What has been the experience? What are the key learnings? I would not want you to call it as a success or a failure, but what are the things that could be there for anybody who's looking at this particular opportunity, banking on the freight part of it? Your thoughts on that?
Thanks, Jagan. If you look at private investment on railway infrastructure in India, there has been a huge amount of infrastructure investment which has been done. In fact, the entire private sector, which depends on Indian Railways for transportation of particularly inbound material, raw material, and in some cases, a outbound finished product. So if you take, let's say, sectors like cement, iron and steel, thermal power, and the port sector, there has been a great investment which has been done by the private sector in terms of developing private sidings or industrial sidings, as those are called in India, in railway parlance. However, investment in order to foster common service provider on Indian Railways has been a mixed experience, I would say. Mixed bag of experience, primarily on account of two things. One is that an infrastructure service provider of this kind needs to create two different divides of risk baskets. There is an infrastructure risk basket and there is a commercial risk basket. The private investor who brings in new kinds of services on Indian Railways is expected only to take care of the commercial risk. Whereas Indian Railways has tried to price its infrastructure risk by way of fixed amount or a certain levy as a percentage of its own fully distributed cost of operation, which has resulted into the commercials of this sector not being very attractive. And if you look at overall success of intermodal business in Indian Railways basket, Indian Railways has been able to carry only 5 to 6% of cargo in containerized form. In fact, there is a little bit of, I would say, disconnect there. Indian Railway looks at container as cargo. Container is not a cargo. Container is just a mode of transportation of cargo. What goes inside the container is more important, and that is where it needs to focus on manufactured products, whether of industrial type or commercial or consumer type, in order to attract the value-added product which requires a different kind of transportation service. Secondly, so there is a risk imbalance issue here, and the second part is that the imbalance, the role of Indian Railways as an infrastructure service provider has to be seen from a independent perspective by a independent external non-influenceable regulator. This is something that Indian Railways has avoided, Government of India has avoided until now, and that is why one doubts whether the intention is honorable or not. I'm not doubting it, but that is the doubt which comes in the
Sachin,
mind.
you have put multiple commas in which how to be done. Yeah, okay.
So unless these two are factored in, I think private sector train operation is going to be difficult in passenger segment. Another point which is coming, there are two aspects there, that passenger transportation requires coaches and let's say distributed power kind of train sets. These are not available off the shelf as far as Indian Railways gauge is concerned. 1676 gauge is not available anywhere in the world except India. That means it has to be custom made for India. Indian Railway itself operates with a rolling stock which is 110 kilometers, 120 kilometers maximum permissible speed. The private sector investor is expected to bring in rolling stock which is not only 160 kilometers ready, but it has to be done upfront when Indian Railways own network is not ready for 160 kilometers per hour except some patches. So investing so much amount ahead of the capability of the network to carry such high speed rolling stock is going to result into increasing cost of production. Secondly, Indian Railway has come out with a very ingenuine idea of levying penal charges on a private operator for poor service. I think first Indian Railway should start paying those penal charges to its customer, stand by example, and then ask the private operators to do that to the customer. Indian Railway does not have a locus standi to charge penal charges to a service provider. If at all, it should go only to the customer who has been given a deficient service. That is the reason why I feel that there is
Sure. I think Sachin,
still a gap
probably
between
Indian
what should
Railways is
be done and
handling
what should be
both.
done.
Yeah, it is probably putting both hats as a regulator and also as a service provider, which may not be the appropriate thing to do. So I think I'll pause here. Yeah, understood. Absolutely. That's what I mentioned. Yeah, so I'll just pause here. I think quite a number of questions has come across. I'm conscious of time. We'll try and quickly take them up one by one so that the next panel is also have come through. So let's take them one by one. First one is for MD DFCC. So when you say by door-to-door connectivity, do you mean that you're focusing on the last mile connectivity along the DFC? What are the initiatives that has taken in this area? Over to you, sir.
From door-to-door service, we are thinking in various terms. Number one, we are offering the private operators to come for the PFTs, private freight terminals, where they can aggregate their traffic and they can transport it through the railway terminals and can dispatch back to their destination. So this will be the one type of the model. Second model is the parcel model, where we will be engaging certain agencies who will be aggregating all the parcels and bringing to the railway premises, DFC premises, and they will be sending to the destination. And again, they will be helping us in distribution at the destination. So again, we will have to tie up with the private operator and we will provide them the transportation facility through the rails. So this is basically the meaning of the door-to-door service. Thank you.
Okay, sir. Thank you.
And similarly, one more thing, just Jagan, I would like to add, the RoRo
Yes, sir.
service has also been planned along with the DFCCIL, where the same issue will be taken, that the trucks will be loaded on the railway DFCC wagons and those will be permitted to deload at the destination. This will again be part of the door-to-door service. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Next is, I think, is more like a statement. I'm just reading it out. We'll take it up with Vicky so that that can be, documented as part of the conference proceeding and taken up with the Indian Railways. It just says multiple essential good manufacturers are looking for logistic services, and multiple logistic service providers better to serve them. Can we have a portal that connects the demand with supply? Just 1 minute. I know that there kind of a portal of this is being worked out at the Ministry of Commerce, but we, anyways, from Ficky's side, will take it up and put this as a suggestion from the panel as well. Yeah, we have taken on this question. What is the view of the panel regards to railway privatization? Sachin talked about it, so that's got covered. The next question is, what are the new developments in freight transport, considering there will be increase in demand in temperature controlled transport with vaccine? Anybody wants to quickly come in for a 1 minute on the vaccine transportation, because it's a very hot topic. And from the Indian Railways perspective, want to take it up?
One small, let's say, observation around that is that,
yeah,
in reality, Indian Railway is the transport service provider to the most time-sensitive passenger service which requires to be provided. That is passenger service. It has a timetable schedule for Indian customers, and
sure,
largely it is able to maintain the punctuality of train service along that.
Sure.
This also ensures that next only to air transportation, which is not as widespread as rail transportation is, Indian Railways stands a good chance of becoming a primary hub or primary backbone for transportation of containers in which the transportation of vaccine is going to be done. So proper vaccine transportation may not be the solution, but the people who are providing vaccine transportation can use rail transportation as a backbone for approaching a large number of wayside stations and origin destination stations in order to carry small and large parcel size in passenger services. Indian Railways, I think, can come out with a solution that anyone who is carrying a government nominated parcel of transportation of COVID vaccine should be allowed free and confirm accommodation on any train from anywhere in India to anywhere in India. I think that will take care of a large amount of transportation requirement. And the vaccine is going to be carried in a very small parcel size by itself. One is the dispensing part of it, the other is transportation part of it. So transportation will be in small boxes for smaller locations. Sure. I think it will be a fantastic idea to let that be transported in temperature controlled boxes by nominees of the Government of India and its agencies on mail express services in air conditioned coaches, so that seamless transportation from origin to multiple points of consumption can be easily provided by Indian Railways.
No, very, very fair point and good suggestion. I think from Ficky's side, we will take that up and position that as well. I'm very conscious of time. I think the last question has also been taken up by MD Dfcc at his opening remark. It says, how is the progress in WDFCC and the Eastern DFCC? To what extent road traffic can shift to rail? To sum it up, I think close to about 7. You want to take it up on a minute, sir, or should I sum it up? Yeah.
In Western dedicated freight corridor, out of 1,500 kilometer, we have already commissioned 306 kilometer from Rewari to Ajmer, and again from Ajmer to Palanpur we are completing by March end. So by March end we will be touching to the Kandla port and the Mundra port. We will be having a traffic via Palanpur, and remaining will be by June 22. And similarly, in the Eastern dedicated freight corridor, we have already commissioned between Delhi and Kanpur for 351 kilometer. That is New Bhaupur and New Khurja. And balance will be completed in stages up to June 22. So we are progressing as per the targets, and surely with the commissioning of the DFCCI and the RoRo automobile traffic and other traffics, which other panelists have already covered, we will try to bring back the modal share from road to rail and better utilization of railway infrastructure. Thank you.
So we have completely run out of time. I clearly see the other panelists for the next sessions have also started to line up. Wouldn't take much more time than this. Very, very engaging session. Talked about the freight, what are the challenges, what are the learnings which could go into the passenger part of it. My deepest gratitude to each one of you, the panelist members, to have joined and taken out time and to have actively contributed to this discussion. Thanks a lot. Over to you, Komal, from me. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Jagan. Thank you so much, Mr. Jain, Shantanu-ji, Sachin, Mr. Sachin, and Mr. Malik. Thank you so much. With this, we will now proceed to the final session of day 2 of the Smart Railways Conclave, which primarily focuses upon the passenger comfort and amenities. We have amongst the panelists, Mr. Jitendra Singh, Principal Executive Director from RDSO, Camtech Gwalior, Mr. Mahesh Kumar, who is the Chief Design Engineer and Head of Mechanical Design at Model Coach Factory, Dr. John Hobdell, the Technology and Innovation Director from Huntsman Polyurethane Division, Huntsman, India, Mr. Nitin Bhatia, Vertical Lead Railway Metros, Cisco India, and Mr. Manish Rathi, the CEO and co-founder of Intercity Smart Bus. Joining us as a session moderator for this session is Mr. Davinder Sandhu. Before we proceed with this session, we will just run through a 1-minute PPT from Huntsman, who are also our session sponsors. Requesting the IT to please load the presentation, please.
Good afternoon, everybody. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, John, we can hear you. We'll just run this PPT, and maybe during the course of your interaction, you can take up some of these points that have been highlighted in the PPT.
Okay, it's going very, very quickly. So good afternoon, and thank you to Vicky for organising this event, and Nidja for hosting, and Davinder for moderating, and looking forward to the discussions with the esteemed panelists. So, well, I just very briefly want to, it's going very quickly, the presentation. But no, the points that I want to make today are that polyurethanes during the course of this discussion session, it's been very interesting to note the importance of materials in delivering the ambitions for world-class trains made in India. Trains which are comfortable, safe, lightweight, energy efficient, and at the same time cost-effective to produce in India. And when it comes to...
Yeah, that will be great, John. In fact, we have gentlemen from RDSO and MCF who will be really happy to give their feedback and understand as to what do you have to offer. I will now quickly request Mr. Davinder Sandhu, who is the moderator for this session, to take forward from here. Mr. Sandhu, the floor is yours.
Thank you.
You're mute, sir. You're mute. Mr. Sandhu, you're mute.
Thanks for reminding me. I said, yes, welcome to all the panelists. Great to have you here today and listen to your thoughts on how you see the future. If I see the National Railway Plan, and I was quite surprised to see that the Railways expects that passenger traffic will double over the next 2 decades. I mean, it's already quite a large figure, but it is expected to double. Fact of the matter is that the Railways is under severe competition. A part of its high average revenue passenger is being competed quite a bit by the airlines. The national highways with the expressways that are coming up and the bus fleets that are being put in place are also taking away traffic over the next sort of 300-400 kilometers kind of a journey. So I think it's really appropriate that we discuss how we are going to look at passenger comforts going forward and ensure that the Railways is able to sort of see rail travel as an experience that competes well with other competing modes and is able to retain its share of the traffic. There are any number of reasons why the Railways should actually be doing that, even from a national perspective in terms of being a greener mode of transport, being mass transit, and all the right things that we look for in sustainable development. But the fact of the matter is that if you look at the picture ahead, it is a challenge. I also want to say that when we look at passenger comfort and amenities, it starts right from the ticketing experience itself. And I look forward to hearing from Nitin on how digital enablement can be done right from reaching out to the passenger. Then receiving the passenger at the terminal itself, the terminal facilities, they need a quantum upgrade on the Indian Railways. There's no doubt about that. The terminal experience is not very friendly at all. Then the interface between the terminal and the train itself is a problem. I mean, if we are a differently abled passenger, it's a nightmare again. Sometimes to get into the train or manage that part. And if you look at statistics, India does have a larger percentage of differently abled people than some other countries. So I think right from the whole experience is where we need to concentrate on, and of course finally the onboard experience of the passenger in terms of what they are feeling. There have been excellent efforts moving up from the ICF, a small experiment with a Fiat bogie sometime in the beginning, in around 2001, 2002, and then finally settling on the LHP bogie, and now in the private train operation, really trying to tap the global universe of semi-high-speed trains in the first instance, and high-speed trains in the final analysis, where passenger comforts are to be focused on. So I think this is something that's very important, a critical factor that will make it's a kind of a make or break for the railway passenger, how you are going to design the experience going forward. So really looking forward to this conversation. I would request each of the panelists to spend around 6 to 7 minutes on their ideas and enrich us with your thoughts. And then, of course, we will bring in any questions that remain and have a discussion on some of the issues that are raised by you. I'll keep on making a note of that, and I'll bring them back to you for further elaboration. So, without much ado, can I request Mr. Mahesh Kumar? Uh, when we look at the focus that's coming on the medium and high-speed trains, and as you
Just
would
Mr.
have heard,
Sandhu, sorry for the
correct?
interruption. I see
Yeah.
Mr. Mahesh Kumar office has joined, but he hasn't seated yet. So maybe we can start with Mr. Jitendra Singh and while we wait for Mahesh ji.
Okay. Okay. Thanks for pointing that out. I thought he was coming. Okay, Chitendra, then
Yes.
let's hear your thoughts on some of the issues here. You and me have been interacting, during the times of our career, and of course also on social networks. But clearly, I think safety is a very important issue. As high speeds go up, as more trailing loads on freight go up, and there are lines on Indian Railways that carry both freight and passenger at the same time. And I think there's clearly a mission zero with zero fatalities. That's part of the railways understanding. So how do you facilitate a mission zero with no accidents on Indian Railways, and with the new kind of stock that you have, predictive maintenance, even before preventive maintenance comes in? So how do you see this entire thing, since safety is very much a part of the sense of comfort that a passenger gets on a system?
Yes. Good afternoon. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you, Jitendra.
Yeah. Thank you. See, Indian Railways is passing through a very major transformation changes, and these changes are occurring at such a rapid pace that it's difficult to visualize in such a short time that how it is going. Things are going to change. But one thing I'm sure that the changes are going to take place for the better customer experience, and a rail service is going to be a much better experience for everybody who is using the railway as service or who is providing service to railways, private sector, public sector, or a group of individuals. So the changes recently which have been planned for Indian Railways. We had a national rail plan for inducting uh, all the technologies into Indian Railways with the mainly use of technology, and uh, having to upgrade all the systems in our entire railway ecosystem, be it track, signaling, rolling stock, motive power, passenger service, freight service, parcel service. Every service we are focusing on its improvement. Like we are now providing parcel service with the LVPH rakes, which is running at 130 kmph, and all passenger service we plan to start with the 130 kmph to upgrade to 130, and then all premium services to 160 kmph. And there's some limited areas we are also providing even higher speed up to 180 kmph. So it's going to be an experience for every passenger who avails facilities on Indian Railways. And similarly for rolling stock, there's a lot of decisions have been taken, like to upgrade all passenger coaches to stainless steel LHB coaches, which are much safer, reliable, and comfortable. And for intercity services, the premium services like train set services are being planned. And recently, you must have heard about this new train sets. 40 sets more sets have been ordered, So we are going to get them in next 22 months available for public. So these are the few major changes which we have planned in Indian Railways, and we are also getting a lot of support and information from industry all across the world, and it's going to be major improvement on Indian Railways. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Jitendra. That was sort of a window on what the railways plans to do, and we'll come back to you with some of the questions that we really need for you to address again. Uh, can I ask you, Nitin? You know, I've been working with colleagues out of Cisco, and we've been trying to, see both on the operation side as well as on the passenger experience side about, how the interventions that can be brought. And you clearly are much better informed in terms of as a kind of a national and an international experience of Cisco. So how do you see this window going forward? Both on safety side and both on passenger amenities and comfort side. What is Cisco looking at, and what's this universe like?
Yeah, good afternoon, everybody. So I just have a just recap of some of the challenges the rail industry is facing, and then I'll come back to that part. So one is the aging systems which require an increased effort to maintain are prone to failure more often, resulting in increased cost and safety concerns. Secondly, the downtime issues intensified by the different levels of reliability between the systems, compliance issues. Then the safety mandates now require automated capabilities between trains and backend systems. The safety and security concerns such as train crashes and network breaches, and the passengers' need for Wi-Fi access and more amenities while commuting at the station as well as during the train. So, the rail of the future, what we foresee is this requires, apart from, the physical aspects of, increasing the train, I would say, the type of trains, the speed of trains, and probably, as the other panelists will talk about the internal, sort of a setup within the train itself. Apart from that, we require actually from giving a better experience to the users, we need network, we require a converged network with capabilities. Optimal scenario, what we'll require is a converged network that can complement the existing systems while enabling smooth migration to next generation capabilities. So in this part, broadly, we are talking about three aspects. One is the connected train, so which includes the onboard high-speed wired and wireless IP networks, which can enhance the security, wireless access, passenger services, and applications. Then on the other side is the connected trackside itself, which replaces the multiple proprietary railway networks with a unified IP MPLS network transport. Network operations can we can expect the operators can expect reduced operational services cost and complexity, as well as enhanced security, train control and operations and maintenance. And then is the connected station, which integrates multiple in-station networks and retail communication systems into a single standard-based IP network. Operators can improve retail offerings and revenue will increase their revenues by better retail offerings and revenue streams, as well as security and wireless access. Now, talking about double clicking onto the station aspect itself. So what we are looking at is right, giving a enhanced user experience. So as we have seen now, the railways is competing with the airways and also the road transport. So the experience of the user comes right, till the time he is actually approaching the station itself. So we can look at, something like smart parking type of, to begin with, before even he reaches the station. So smart parking over there, then the passenger Wi-Fi, we can onboard the customer through some Wi-Fi services. Then, automated fare collection and integrated ticketing. Then we need to have digital signage which provides you the train arrivals, departures, if there are any delays. Location-based services can be provided as soon as the customer comes in, from an app he can download, where is the platform location, where are the nearest amenities, which type of retails are there. Probably, some sort of a coupon can be, added on top. So we have these, as a part of the station redevelopment, lot of retail facilities coming in. So, some you can uh, on engage the customer in terms of, maybe some sort of uh, coupons or something like that, and which based on the interest of the customer, maybe he likes a particular brand of coffee, or where is the least waiting time for the customer. Then all sort of these mobile applications can be integrated. Then of course video surveillance and CCTV. So once we have that type of setup, so from the operational side also, the operator can use this type of network for providing enhanced surveillance. We have the social distancing, is there any crowding happening anywhere, or if there is a change in the platform. So this information, instead of rushing and a sort of a crowding happening, so this all can be sort of provided. Then we can have an analytics layer on top, in which the operator can understand how much time the passenger is spending at which parts, how much time he is taking to reach his intended destinations within the station itself. And of course the retail models, once we have a network, the same can be provided to all the retail uh, commercial entities over there at the station. And then moving on, when once he reaches into, he boards the train, so similar services in terms of like infotainment services, the same set of experience. We are talking about now high speeds of 180 kilometers, and the bullet trains will be even much higher. So we need to have a network which includes on the track side itself is able to provide high the same type of services. When he is on the platform, the same Wi-Fi services can be continued within the train, and he gets a very enhanced sort of a user experience, as he is like used to probably in a flight type of scenario. So those are the few thoughts from my side.
Yeah, thanks, Nitin. I think what you are laying out is a kind of a scenario where we are digitalizing the whole experience of the passenger. I mean, part the railways has done as being a bit of a first leader in India in putting out one of the world's largest ticketing websites, which has been on for nearly quarter century now by the railways. And then of course with systems like you are proposing, where the whole experience is digitalized, and that also includes the sort of interface between assets, both rolling assets as well as fixed assets on the ground. And so the whole thing is coming together in a manner that increases safety and at the same time enhances the passenger experience while at the station and within the train. So that's a great thought, and we'll come back to some of the issues that you raised here. John, can I come back to you? You showed us some fabulous images of what happens inside when possibly the railways can do away the current blue colors and the sharp edges that one has been seeing for nearly 3 decades now, and perhaps improve matters. But for you, considering Huntsman, and I had sort of 2 or 3 issues for you to specifically mention about. One is you are experts at how polyurethane can be used in improving traveling experience. So how do you think where's the value that you bring for Indian Railways, and how this is better for comfort and safety, and what do you see going forward? How do you see the picture?
Yeah, thank you very much, Devendra. Yeah, in fact, we see it even more broadly. We've talked just during these discussions. I've heard a lot about the importance of materials in delivering the ambitions for world-class trains made in India. I think I've already made the point that yes, they need to be comfortable and safe. But what I'm understanding even more now is the importance of them being lightweight, energy efficient, and of course cost effective to produce. So when it comes to the materials of the future to support this, polyurethanes have a great deal to offer as a solution for all of these different criteria. For those of you not familiar with polyurethanes, they're an incredibly versatile class of material that can really be tailored to meet all of these requirements of futuristic rail transport. Just to give a few examples, we talked a little earlier about vaccine transportation. Well, polyurethane insulation is already used to produce the rigid and energy efficient panels for multimodal reefer containers. Okay, those are used in the freight, in the cold chain, to transport both perishable goods and vaccines. With the share of freight carried on in Indian railways set to increase, and the ambitions of the government to increase the livelihood of farmers, having an effective freight cold chain will be increasingly important. Now, when we take those existing developments and put them into the future, that insulation concept could be applied to passenger carriages to provide lightweight and comfortable AC carriages, which are also highly energy efficient. To give another example, polyurethane elastomers can be used to reduce the vibrations when they're used in conjunction with railway sleepers, and that's an application which is used particularly in urban metro applications where environmental noise is important. To give another example, polyurethane coatings are incredibly durable and hard wearing, and when they're applied to the flooring of railway carriages, that clean and hygienic effect which is there when the carriage is first manufactured can last for many years with these durable coatings. And then another example is polyurea coatings, which can be used in rail and metro tunnels to prevent water ingress and to ensure the tunnels remain dry for many years. But what I really want to talk about today is solutions around comfort inside the passenger berth. So high comfort foam for both seats and berths. Now, while living in India, I had the chance to travel on the railways many times, and a particular memorable journey was from Coimbatore to Trivandrum in a 3 AC carriage overnight. It was an amazing experience. I greatly enjoyed the journey, and waking up in Kerala was a real treat. I did recognise there was some scope for improved comfort, and PU. It certainly can be a solution there. We talked on these calls. I heard in the discussions the importance of investment in India. So at Huntsman, we've significantly invested into India. We have a major R&D facility in Mumbai, as well as a major manufacturing facility in Chakan, Pune, where we're really eager to support the Make in India with products which are both innovated and manufactured in India. Comfort and safety has always been central to our work. So at the India R&D laboratories in Mumbai, we've innovated a new foam seating technology which offers excellent comfort and also has the highest level of fire, smoke, and toxicity, meeting the stringent HL3 standard. So this novel technology is built on years of experience delivering the ultimate comfort in automotive cars for OEMs such as Volkswagen and BMW, as well as in India for two-wheelers, three-wheelers, and four-wheelers, and even in other comfort seating applications, for example, the movie theaters in India. And we use advanced computer simulation techniques to really match the loads on the passenger under different load and vibration conditions to tailor those products. We've really focused those innovation capabilities on the Indian rail passenger. So what's more with this technology is the comfort which is felt at the beginning of the night's sleep is maintained all night long due to the exceptional what's called compression set of these materials. So they don't sag over time; they stay comfortable over a long period of time. The foam's very durable. I can't underestimate the importance of fire safety. Fire safety is absolutely critical. In trains, passengers need the time to exit a train, and so using proven fire retardant technologies is absolutely critical. And these foams are built to meet those HL3 highest standards. What's more, these technologies can be produced using very cost-effective manufacturing processes. So I think they really offer a great solution to comfort. And as I said, comfort and safety has always been central to our work. In India, we supply products from our Chakan Pune plant for around 1 crore pairs of high comfort shoes. Every journey of the 8.4 billion passengers on the Indian railways starts with the first mile. Yeah. And that first mile is even before entering the train station and the walk to the train station. Polyurethanes materials really build that comfort in from door to door. And I think in the train, I heard on the call some mention about Wi-Fi experience. I think having that comfortable, almost theatre level seating inside the train, coupled with excellent Wi-Fi, so that people can really have a pleasurable comfort and experience during the journey. So in essence, polyurethane materials really are the materials of the future. I think they can bring solutions in many areas for world-class trains made in India. Trains that are comfortable, safe, lightweight, energy efficient, and at the same time cost-effective to produce. So I hope that's opened some ideas of how we can contribute to this amazing initiative. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, John. This is, of course, quite enlightening, and the fact that you're sitting in Chakan, and I'm sure you're supplying to all the European auto majors, and we are sitting on their seats most of the time when we're driving their cars. And that's the kind of sort of experience that you want to bring to the Indian Railways passenger. So that's great. But I have a vintage question for you that I'll come back to you later. But is Mr. Mahesh Kumar online at the moment? I can see.
Yes, sir. I am available.
Okay, excellent. So we missed you in the beginning, and thanks for being back. And so what we are requesting you is that clearly, when we look at this entire initiative of private train operation, clearly this is clearly banked on the whole idea of improvement in passenger train operation, which you expect your private sector partners to bring in. But while bringing in a technology is one part, but how do you see the method of train operations, the method of train maintenance? How does that sort of change to leverage these new technologies and make them sort of congruent with the rising expectations of your customers who you are likely to serve in the future? So what are your thoughts around that?
So actually, I'm based in one of the production units of Indian Railways, and looking after manufacturing of these coaches. So I had been given the mandate to speak about to discuss on the issues of passenger safety and.
Excellent.
So I'll address these issues. Actually, earlier we have been using the conventional ICF coaches, and from 95 we switched over to LHB design. And by now we have around 22 to 24,000 of LHB coaches. And the major safety issues which have been addressed till date are for the passengers. One was initially we had some just problem, and in which the CBC has been modified, and we are using balanced shaft gear. Second, the disc brake is also used with ETSS brakes, and we are using a lot of furnishing items which are fire retardant. And recently we have made specifications for this cushioning material. Mr. John was telling about the Huntsman product, the PU foam. Actually, we are looking for the PU foam with the HLC properties. And recently we have issued approval for the 1 or 2 firms. But we are looking forward so that most firms are available and we can approve them. I'd request Mr. Huntsman and Mr. John to send somebody, or will approach him directly. And in our coaches, we are using smoke and fire detection alarm systems, fire suppression systems, and the public address and passenger information system, which is available. and emergency openable windows are there, and we have a proper earthing arrangement in the coaches. And if we discuss on the issues of passenger comfort, we are using sound insulation paint, and on the flooring we are using cob sandwich floating floors, the melamine foam insulation material, non-metal interiors like FRP and other composite materials. We have sealed auto closing vestibule doors, which have a fire barrier and thermal locking arrangement. Then dampers we are using, and rubber metal bonded items for in our bogies, which is at the underframe. It reduces the vibration and noise to the passengers. And other things which I would like to mention for the future, we have a TOT contract with a Korean firm. We are planning to have our aluminum body coaches, and let's hope in future we'll be making metro coaches and loco haul coaches with aluminum. And in the end, I would like to say which are some of the opportunities for development are the disc brake system. Presently, we are having limited sources for this item, and fire alarm system. The smart features we are putting on coaches. Presently, we have installed it in around 88 coaches, but we'll proliferate it in further coaches. Then air suspension, bi-vacuum toilet, steel gangways, and the propulsion system is another item. And cushioning material that I told they are looking for. And that's all. These are the opportunities we have.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mahesh Kumar. I think that's an exciting universe you have there with one of the most modern and appropriately called modern coach factories of India. So excellent to hear you. And John, I think you got your business development call of the quarter going there. So I think you should be grateful to Mr. Mahesh Kumar and Vicky both for bringing you together on a platform. I think you're buying a ticket for Raebareli soon.
Absolutely. Thank you very much. And I look forward to making contact.
Yeah, happy to do that. And also very happy to work with Nitin. And I earlier worked with Cisco in a number of POCs, and that's why I mentioned that to you. So happy to take this along. And now, Manish, I think we met maybe around a year ago. There was a conference, or one of your colleagues I met from Intercity.
Yeah, I think you met Kapil.
The conference, again, it was a FICCI conference, I think, with Mr. Gadkari in the chair. I was moderating that session on, I don't remember the topic, but I certainly remember your firm. There was a reach out to me at that time too. So, I mean, you are the competitor here. I mean, as far as the Indian Railways goes, I mean, you're trying to create, a railway experience on the road using expressways and the new highways that are developed. And you are making a mark, and your Lucknow service, I believe, is picking up a number of passengers. So what have you learned from the railways, and what can the railways learn from you to really improve passenger experience for the Indian citizen going forward?
Well, thanks everyone. So first of all, I need to a little bit apologize. There's some noise coming from my surrounding, which is a little bit out of my control right now. So please bear with it. So I think just to give a background about us, we probably are among the panel members out here. We kind of represent more of the travelers across, and we look at it, what their needs are to the travelers, and we provide the right mechanism to travel, be it train, be it buses across us in that way. See, the way we look at it, and I think if I look at it more from a 10 years to a 15 years perspective, I think it is very important. I think India has a little bit of a challenge. The challenge we look at it across is that more about the urbanization of India. If you look at it about 40, if you look at it, the numbers which are about 20, 50, 70% of the Indian population are going to stay across in the urban cities, and that urban cities is about 500 of them. Now, when you look at from that perspective, our belief across is that one mode of transportation is not going to do it. Be it, and our view across is that it has to have an integrated approach, where across, where one mode of transportation is connected with the other mode of transportation. The purpose of the traveler, which is from going from A to B, can that be satisfied in the safe, satisfactory manner? So India would definitely need an integrated approach of across the modes of transportation if it has to kind of facilitate 70% of the population living in just about 500 towns, one mode, So that's the view we have. And that's the reason what we have done across is that we, of course, help the passengers across from the train point of view, making sure or trying to find out a good seat across on a train. We also, if it doesn't work out, we also kind of work across in the manner around, could they take the other mode of transportation, which is bus or flight or those things around. So that's where our smart buses kind of concept comes across, which has a very, very similar parallel to trains, things like, we have lounges, which is equivalent to a train station, where people can board their buses across in a safer manner. All our buses have washroom, which is a big plus of trains, where people have to travel long distance, so they have washrooms across us in that way. There is an equivalent of a bus captain, like an air hostess or a TT on a train. So making sure that the people have a facility to move from one mode of transportation to another mode of transportation in a seamless manner while getting the same kind of an experience, be it from a comfort, safety, and availability. That's really the goal at Intercity, what we have today.
Yes, I think what you say is very important. I think, and that's I'm very happy to hear that, because clearly, the goal is the passenger has to be mode agnostic. He has to go from point A to B, and then he has to go by literally even the walkways and the pathways in the street have to be safe, because he has to walk that while he reaches, maybe catches a taxi or a bus, and then he goes to a railway station, and then his ultimate destination is served by your bus, and therefore he gets off the train and gets onto your bus and reaches the home. And somewhere this entire unified way of looking at the passenger movement from door to door, where various modes are coming in a very integrated fashion. And the government has recently launched, if you remember, the national kind of a transport credit card also, that allows you to go across. And there's this legislation that's coming in many states now. Kerala was first of the mark in that, in which there is the concept of unified metropolitan transport authorities. So in Kerala, the UMTA, as it's called, the UMTA, will allow you to get off a metro, get onto a city bus, and in Kochi even get onto the ferry, and go from point A to point B. That's clearly right. But I will come back to you to ask you, how do we ensure that there's a certain standard of passenger experience across these modes? It should not happen that he's jerking between a bad experience and a good experience all the time. So this is excellent thoughts, and let me pick up some of the things that I've noted from what has already been done. And Mr. Jitendra Singh, are you there? Can I come back to you for a minute? There was an issue that Mr. Mahesh Kumar has rightly raised, and I'm sort of pinging it back to the railway board and ministry level. I think it's critically important for India that it moves from a largely steel-based view about vehicles, and that goes across road, rail, and even passenger cars, because lightweighting is a major issue as even we are looking at electric vehicles in the future. So how do you see the transition from steel to aluminium on the Indian Railways? I think it is kind of from my perspective as a transport and an energy person, it seems to me something that needs really big focus.
Yes, as you know, switching over to aluminum body coaches would give a lot of advantage in terms of saving in weight and improving the efficiency. But then aluminum design is not proven so far in India. We had a plan to manufacture train 18, the next version called T20 with the aluminum body coaches. But I think that because it got delayed, so and I said that this. I think in due course of time we have to go for aluminum body coaches, and it's more so important for high speed train services, because at a higher speed carrying more dead weight would means inefficient system. We will be spending money and energy on the carrying that weight, which is not going to give any advantage. So this aluminum body coaches should come up in future. I think Mr. Mahesh would be able to give a better insight that if they have anything planned so far, or they are going for it. One reason for this delay is that it will be a totally new design, complete new design, and it's going to take time to develop and establish. Because the manufacturing technology for aluminum coaches and stainless steel coaches is totally different. It's in stainless steel
I'll share
it's a
some of the points with
fabrication,
you.
but in aluminum coaches it is more of a pre-drawn components which are assembled. So Mr. Mahesh would be able to give a better insight.
Yeah, he
Thank
was
you.
just speaking, and I think can I request him to come in with his thoughts on this?
Actually, aluminum body coaches is actually where we are planning for future. But the major problems were the induction of technology was one issue. So we had a TOT contract with a Korean company, which will be transferring it to us. And another problem in this will be the making of extrusions. In India, Hindalco and other aluminum manufacturers, they are not able to manufacture such a large extrusions which are required for aluminum body. So they have a plan of say 500 CR, and once we finalize whether we want to go in for the aluminum body coaches, then they will index that much of amount and come up with the facilities. But for future, we have around 500 coaches of sanction for aluminum body coaches and TOT contract, and we'll be pursuing it. Let's see.
Okay, staying with you, Mr. Mahesh Kumar. One experience, of course, as being a railway person for many years. I used to be senior from Delhi for 5 years before I went away to the Prime Minister's office in the World Bank. That LHB jerk has not gone away. So you mentioned it as a very important part of your passenger experience. But I mean, actual feedback from the ground is I think we still need to do a lot of work on that. That jerk is still very much there on our coaches, and sometimes I mean it's
a lot of work has been done on this issue, and now we have switched over to balanced draft gear, and induction of which is taking place regularly. But in old coaches, the draft gear won't be giving this problem. But in new coaches, you will find it will be improved version.
Okay. And are we in a position now to say, for example, increase the maintenance interval between, in a number of kilometers that the coach runs before it gets back to the maintenance facility? Because I think that's very important. If, as per the National Rail Plan, the Indian Railways wants to carry more passengers, then I think that's one way of increasing productivity on a rail.
Yeah, the maintenance period have increased the induction of these new coaches, the LHB design they are referring to. Earlier, we used to take it for overhauling every 18 months, but now they are going for a small maintenance, which we call SS1, after the 18 months, and then SS2, and then they go for years. So it's almost 5 years, years to years.
Okay. Nitin, can I come back to you for a minute on all the thoughts that you had shared? Now,
Surely.
clearly, what's happening at the station is very important. The connected station, the connected train, and you're looking at the Indian Railways passenger as they're transiting from various points of the station, crowd management, crowd control, face recognition, and all those technologies. How do you manage the GDPR and the privacy issues? Because clearly they're important. And if you're going to monetize these events as they're occurring, as the passenger is moving from one point to another, so how do you see this from your global experience of how the Indian Railways can be ready to improve experience, but at the same time make sure that it stays on the right side of privacy laws and GDPR issues?
Yeah, it's a very important point you have raised, I think. Uh, these type of services can be provided while still maintaining, the privacy laws which are, relevant. So, I mean, same situation is there in other countries as well. So definitely, I mean, a step further can be definitely made in terms of, providing that necessary user experience. I think I'm sure like in the past also there have been some sort of pilots which have been done in terms of providing some sort of location based services. So definitely, I mean, these can be done.
Okay, I thought I'll just share that with you, and I'm happy to hear that Cisco is quite up to the mark on doing that. John, to come back to you, all of us here in India are very cost conscious. And there used to be an ad that ran around, 10 or 15 years ago. It was a very popular ad where somebody would go to a yacht and say, how much does it cost? And he would say the yacht costs some $10 million or something. And the next question that the rich man in the big hat asked was, what is the fuel average that it gives? So we're very conscious of, how much the running cost of things are. So while PU and the foam products that you are proposing are excellent, of course, in terms of passenger comfort, but for say life, in terms of cost, I mean, are they going to be more costly to maintain than with an earlier replacement, or they're better off?
No, I mean, I mentioned some of our products which we deliver indeed to the highest comfort and the highest specification automotive vehicles, but the polyurethane materials are incredibly versatile and indeed can both be produced in a very cost-effective fashion. In fact, the investment that's required in processing equipment can be modest, and the actual processing, the cycle times when using polyurethane materials can be very low. So in terms of manufacturing these products, it can be very cost effective. Your question about lifetime and durability, indeed, the polyurethane materials have a very high level of durability. The tear resistance of these foams. So, I mean, usually in application, there would be a coating, a Rexine or a coating that would be around the foam. So what we're really looking at is, does the foam maintain its comfort over many years? Because that's an important kind of total lifetime cost of ownership issue. And indeed, one of the big advantages with polyurethane materials versus some of the incumbent materials is that they have this property of maintaining their thickness, their comfort over prolonged time periods. And indeed, while we also, to give an example of, we provide an enormous amount of technology for three-wheeler seats in India. And there, I believe one of the reasons why polyurethanes has found such an exciting use there is that because of the comfort features that come from the foam itself, it allows for some compromises, if you like, in the suspension system on the three-wheeler. Because the polyurethane foam actually damps out the vibrations for the passenger, some other I'd say cost savings in the total vehicle design can be realized. So, if we can provide polyurethane materials for three-wheelers, which must be one of the most cost-effective modes of transport in the world, then I think that's evidence that these can, as well as offering the highest class of luxury yacht, can also provide very cost-effective solutions.
Yeah, thank you so much for taking that. And Komal, do we have any questions? I think we are nearing the end of the 1 hour that you've given us. Komal, I can't see you.
Sir, maybe she's facing some connectivity issues. I'll just check the chat box and I'll get back to you.
Yeah, I think the panelists have been very extensive in sharing their views. So just let me know if there are any questions, because otherwise I think it's time to wrap up for the next session.
No questions at the
I think the questions in the chat box were answered by John. So at the moment, we don't have any questions. And so the sense I get is that with two of the main drivers of rolling stock and comfort, Jitain from the Railway Board and Mr. Mahesh running one of the most important and latest coach factories of Indian Railways. So I think we are well sort of scheduled on the policy direction around that and on the industrial implementation of that. And we've got, a rich set of, possible vendors and suppliers who can partner them in comfort, in overall digitalization of the experience, and also with companies like Intercity willing to partner them on providing a true multimodal and safe experience and sharing each other's experiences on various modes and try to improve passenger experience going forward. India is one of the most densely populated countries in the world. It's a subcontinental size country. And literally, I mean, while you could be burning in summer temperature in one corner of the country, you could be shivering with snow and ice in another corner. And so that's the kind of diversity that any system needs to cope with. In Indian Railways, of course, it remains one of the finest systems. It's the same coach that can start from an icy-laden Srinagar and end up into a hot and humid Trivandrum after a 24-hour or 18-hour run, or even lesser as speeds increase on Indian Railways. So I think that's the kind of service that's provided, and the fact that it's focused on improving both safety as well as comfort, and at the end of the day, increase the value that the passenger experiences while being on the system. So I think, at least I, as a former railway person and civil servant and a person who works in transport and energy, is quite comforted by this. And I think that's what Vicky will take back to your people. And John, as we said, I think a very good 1 hour spent by you and in meeting Mr. Mahesh Kumar and taking this whole thing forward. It's been a privilege speaking to you, and I'll be reaching out to you individually to convey my thanks and also see how we can work together in the future. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Komal, Nirja. It's been a fabulous hour. Thank you so much.
Mr. Sandhu, we have Mr. Madhav Majumdar with us, who is the Deputy Secretary General at FICCI, for the closing remarks. Over to you.
Sorry, Madhav, I was not informed of this, and I was.
No, I know. I know. Yes. And due to the connectivity issue, my video is shut off. I'll be very quick. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, session moderator, Mr. Sandhu. We really appreciate, and of course, our sincere thanks to our distinguished panel of speakers. And with this, we have come to an end of our third edition of the Smart Railways Conclave. Once again, I would like to thank all our speakers, distinguished panelists, sponsors, namely Silver Partner, Waptec, Session Partner Huntsman, Associate Partner Apollo Software Private Limited, and Knowledge Partner CRISIL for their generous and kind support in our initiative. And of course, a warm thanks, sincere thanks to all the delegates who have participated in this 1.5 day event. Thanks a lot, everyone. And with this, I announce and I declare the Smart Railways Conclave concluded. Thank you once more. Signing off, Manav Majumdar, Deputy Secretary General FICCI. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, everyone, for joining.
Thank you. Thank you for joining. Thank you.